Going over budget seems like a dilemma facing every project. When our project starts, we will come across many unexpected factors. They can strongly influence our spendings. However, there are indeed some techniques and methods that can help us to develop a project cost management plan and help us control cost when we implement the project. In this lecture, I want to talk about how to perform a project cost management. I will first give everyone an overview of a project cost management. Then I want to focus on how to make a budget and then how to control the cost when we implement the project. A project cost management is defined as a process of planning, estimating, budgeting, financing, funding, managing, and controlling costs so that the project can be accomplished within the approved budget. In a project cost management, two activities are very important. First, we need to estimate the cost and make a budget for the project. Second, we need to perform the cost control activity so that our spendings will stay in the approved budget. Let's talk about the two activities one by one. There are several methods available for you to estimate a project cost. You can invite a panel of experts to estimate the cost for the project. You can also use the analogous estimation. When you use this method, you want to compare the current project to the previous similar projects, and then use the previous project to estimate how much you need to invest in the current project. You can also use something called the parametric estimation. When you use this method, you want to estimate the current project cost from a statistical perspective. Let's say you summarize the previous 5 projects and get the average of the 5 project cost. The average value will be your estimated cost for the current project. The next method is called a bottom-up estimation. When you use this method, you want to estimate the cost for each specific activity within your project. And then you want to add each estimation together. The total will be the estimated cost for your entire project. Another method is called a 3-point estimation. When you use this method, you want to separate the future outcomes into 3 possibilities: the optimistic scenario, the most likely scenario, and the pessimistic scenario. In each scenario, you want to estimate the possible cost for the project. And then you can calculate the average of the 3 possible costs. The average value will be your estimated cost for your current project. After you allocate the cost for the entire project, the next step is to allocate the financial resources to different stages in a project. You should consider how much should be invested in the initiating stage, planning stage, executing stage, monitoring and controlling stage, and how much should be invested in the closing stage of your project. After you allocate these resources, you can draw a cost baseline. The picture on this slide shows everyone an example of a cost baseline. It shows how much financial resources should be invested when the project goes along. We have 2 trend lines and 1 dashed line in this picture. The lower trend line shows the expenditure. These are the actual expenses we spent in previous projects. The expenditure line is a very important criteria for us to estimate how much money is needed in different stages of our current project. Based on the expenditure line, we can draw the cost baseline. That's the trend line in the upper section. That is the estimated cost for different stages in our current project. And then we have a dashed line. This deadline shows how much money we plan to ask from the sponsors and our company. Notice that the value on the deadline is always above the cost baseline. We always want to ask for a little bit more money above the cost baseline in order to increase the financial flexibility for our project. Some project manager call this extra money emergency fund. They want to keep the backup money in order to deal with some unexpected factors. The cost baseline plays a very important role in the cost control activities. Let's talk about cost control. We can use several indicators to measure our project performance and if our project stays in budget. The first indicator is called the Schedule Performance Index, SPI. SPI equals to earned value over planned value. Do we want the SPI to be larger or to be smaller? The larger the SPI is, the better our project performance is, right? Because if SPI is larger, then earned value is greater than planned value. This means using the same amount of planned resources, we actually get more outcomes. So we want the SPI to be larger. The second indicator is called the Cost Performance Index, CPI. CPI equals to earned value over actual cost. Do we want CPI to be larger or to be smaller? The larger the CPI is, the better. The reason is, if we get a larger CPI, then earned value is larger, or actual cost is smaller. We can either use the same amount of resources to generate more outcomes, or we use fewer resources to generate the same amount of outcome. So we want the CPI value to be larger as well. One more lesson I want to share with everyone is a project manager should always, here I focus on always, have a clear view on how much money is being spent. Some people say, my job is to be a great leader. Managing cash or checks is the job for my accountants. That's partly true, but money is the most important financial resources for your team to survive and thrive. Managing the most important resources is part of your job to be a great leader. You want to keep a very clear view about how much money you have and how much is being spent. In practice, employees will never get reimbursed until a project manager has reviewed and signed on their reimbursement applications. The reason is, the project manager wants to take a full control on the most important financial resources. In my opinion, this is a very good management practice. You want to integrate the same process into your management.